Thank you for joining the Missing Half podcast, where we're discovering what's missing in manufacturing and B2B marketing. Well, one of the things we like to talk about is marketing managers. My background is actually as a marketing manager, and I started my early career there. And we would just want to talk about what you're facing as a marketing manager at a manufacturing or B2B company, and maybe some guidelines on how you can deal with all of the competing pressures, demands, and just the things you're trying to get done to help move your company forward. So when I look back at my early career in the early 2000s, I was the marketing manager with a small team of anywhere from 1 to 3 people that was responsible for handling the marketing for a family company that grew from $2.5 million in revenue in 1992 to over $100 million in sales before our exit. And that company was a combination of manufacturing, retail, wholesale, and other like agricultural sales into the agricultural market. So we had a diverse offering of businesses. And one of the challenges that we faced as a small marketing team was just handling the sheer volume that was coming at us every day. You know, as an internal marketing manager with an in-source team, we recognize that one of the biggest things you have to deal with is just the daily traffic that exists in your company. Whether it's a meeting with someone in management or in the C-suite talking about your budgeting or your goals, that's its own channel that requires a lot of care and feeding and a lot of attention. Another area that shows a lot of traffic and can really impede your schedule, or that you just have to contend with, is conversations with if you have multiple locations or multiple centers of operations. Each of those product managers or location managers, they require a lot of communication. They have a lot of needs and wants. There's always a request for something, whether it's minuscule like a local pro bono ad, the whole way up to their events, and just looking at their overall marketing performance. Certainly whenever their branch or their division is not performing as well as other divisions, you're probably going to get an ask or a request for something to help them because they need the support, or looking for any type of lifeline to help them move forward. So there's also that channel that can be very demanding on your time and resources. Another channel that can be very demanding is the sales team. Salespeople in general, if you have a road sales team or an internal sales team or both, they can provide a lot of demands and a lot of requests and asks that are not necessarily aligned with your goals and objectives. And we understand how that can be a juggling act to make sure that that you as a marketing manager and your team are responding and helping them prioritize what they need to be successful. Another area, and then let's get down to the marketing work, right? We then have to look at what marketing managers have to deal with the things that they need to do every day to be successful in their department that really have nothing to do with the C-suite, the divisions or the locations or the salespeople. And that's just the day-to-day work on whether it's the website, social media, content, video, marketing automation, campaigns, lead gen, all of the things that make up what a marketing manager is supposed to do. So when we look at the marketing manager function, we often wonder, and when we talk to a lot of marketing managers in the marketplace, are we being set up to fail? It's a common question that we ask and wonder about because there's so many things that are coming at marketing managers. And one of our goals is to be of assistance with this podcast and with some of these conversations and help you with learning. So before we dive into all of that, I'd like to kind of go back through some of the early things I learned in my career and some of the experiences I had and how they are similar, and in some ways how they're different than what you may be experiencing as a marketing manager. In the early 2000s, we tried to insource everything in our internal marketing department. Now, we were a small department. We had anywhere from 2 to 3 people at any given time, depending on where we were in our cycles and what people were available to us with specific skill sets. And we were always very, very busy. We had 40 road salespeople that we were responsible to support with sales enablement. We didn't call it sales enablement then, but that's what we were doing in the common vernacular. And we were also responsible for 20 physical locations. We produced about 50 events a year for those locations, and sales teams did multiple trade shows. And we also managed a $1.5 million annual spend budget across 40 media properties that included radio, TV, newspaper, direct mail, and then as time progressed, digital. So we understand the competing nature and the somewhat unrealistic demands that are placed on you as a marketing manager to deliver results for your organization. And one of the things that when we look at that time frame and experience, there were, I'd almost say, a more limited opportunity of channels that we had to deal with. In the early 2000s, we didn't have social media. Digital was in its infancy, but we had to contend with that transition while managing and evaluating the traditional avenues, and then looking at what was next and going through that transition phase. It seems that now that perpetual rate of evaluation and perpetual approach to evaluation and continually looking at what's new and what's changing has just accelerated. So when we look at that time frame and what we did in managing all of those various aspects of the marketing department, we would generally look at maybe 2 to 3 new major initiatives a year or pivots, and that was a big year. Now in digital, it almost feels like that's not enough. We have to be looking at new social media platforms, and in the website world, we have to be looking at more conversion rate optimization, and we have to be understanding what's going on with the cookieless movement in digital advertising. And then we have to look at video and what's changing in the video world and how we're going to deliver more with less. And what we've seen is some similarities and some differences to today's marketing world. So there are definitely some positives that we can identify today that we didn't have as challenges or opportunities back in the early 2000s. So one, there are a lot more tools available to you as a marketing manager today to speed up your processes. And whether it's a SaaS product that you can rent for a very low fee that can help you move things forward, or if there's an app for that, there's a lot more tools available to you and your team. At the same time, there's a lot more data maturity. In the early 2000s, having just good customer lists or good customer data or good data in and around target audiences and segmentation was nearly non-existent, specifically in the non-Fortune 500 or in the mid-market to smaller market businesses. Today, data maturity is certainly something you can lean into and leverage as an asset in what you're working with. Another advantage we experience today is we have a lot of analytics. Sometimes I think it's funny whenever we get the question, well, can you measure that? That's not the question anymore. In the early 2000s and even in the 2010s, it was harder to measure. Now we have so much data, it's paralysis by analysis. There are so many pieces of data to look at and so many things to measure that generally isn't the problem. So data is now a friend and something that we can leverage to prove what's happening or disprove what isn't happening and make sure we're having the best and most informed marketing initiatives that we can based on data, not based on intuition. When we look at some of the positives that are available in today's marketing manager's toolbox, we also have to look at some things that are definitely a disadvantage or disadvantageous to the marketing manager position. One, overall strategy is something that is assumed that every marketing manager has a command of in their industry and in just the general overall marketing arena. And strategy is very difficult to get when you're only getting the touch point of your experience. One of the things we've seen is when we're dealing with a lot of clients and when we're talking to our peers and we can benchmark our ideas and our strategic thinking across thousands of clients, that's where we're finding the best strategies. On the flip side, There's never been a more available time for you to gain strategic insight from YouTube or podcasts or workshops or any of the various resources that are available through webinars. So that's kind of a double-edged sword. But to be able to have the time to go through all of those masterminds and also digest them and then understand how they've been applied and tested is somewhat of a disadvantage to a marketing manager who is in a very specific niche and really needs to find someone or a group that they can leverage their experience and just frequency of touch points to make sure the strategy holds true and is going to predict good results as it's scaled up in their specific instance. Another big challenge for marketing managers is just the scope of what they're responsible for. Whenever we look at the entire range of items that marketing managers have to deal with when they're in an in-source or an internal department at a manufacturing or B2B company, everything from the internal tasks of dealing with the company, so dealing with the C-suite, dealing with product managers or location or division managers, dealing with the sales team, dealing with the event schedule, trying to properly manage budgets and expectations and projects in that internal company world. There's just a tremendous scope of work. But then when we look beyond the internal scope of work and look to more of the external actual marketing initiatives and marketing duties, there's also a tremendous scope of work that they're trying to accomplish in that arena. Everything from foundational marketing, like the website, copywriting, brand standards, to more of the outbound social media, video, marketing automation, CRM. Each of these areas requires a different area of expertise, different playbooks, project management, and understanding of how to get them done and tactically deliver on time and under budget. So when we look at the marketing manager role and the sheer scope of responsibility of not only internal company responsibilities, but the external marketing responsibilities, it's no wonder that marketing managers are struggling to execute. One of our goals here at 50 Marketing through the Missing Half podcast is to develop educational resources where we can learn together what's missing in manufacturing and B2B marketing. But then not only when we identify what's missing, provide some resources, some educational opportunities, some expert interviews to help you do your job better, or at least understand what you should be looking for, what areas you should be exploring, and develop a strategy around how you're going to grow your marketing program. So when we consider the challenges that are facing marketing managers today, one is having that strategic outlook. Two is just the sheer scope of what marketing managers are responsible for. And then three, probably one of the biggest challenges the marketing managers are facing is just the rate of change. Everything is changing so rapidly. And as I talked about before, back in the early 2000s, if we had 2 to 3 major initiatives a year or change initiatives, that was a big year. In today's marketplace, with the way digital is changing every day, 2 to 3 is not enough. You may have 2 to 3 change initiatives just in social media or just in video. For instance, just a handful of years ago, green screen videos were the norm. That was kind of the gold standard for people really getting out there with thought leadership and recording information that they distributed on YouTube. And now that's kind of a thing of the past. If you're not doing these type of podcasts, if you're not interviewing, if you don't have the shorts and the reels and the moonshots and the little vignette videos that you can make snackable that people can watch really quickly, those are the new standards. And when we look at what's happening with cookies, and when we look at what's happening with conversion rates on websites and the latest Google algorithmic changes, these are all things that we have to contend with. And that rate of change is not going to slow down. It's just going to increase. So that's probably the third biggest challenge we see for marketing managers. This next challenge that we're going to talk about isn't probably as sexy or as exciting to talk about, but let's talk about the core project management function that marketing managers have to perform across the internal and external external requirements that their company has. So when we look at project management, the biggest challenge we see in this space is, and this is even internally with our team, is we can't have people who don't understand all of the technical details that we're asking to be delivered manage that project. So if a marketing manager who maybe has core expertise in web dev or content is asked to manage a complex project around video or a podcast, if they don't know the technical details of delivery, it's almost impossible to manage the critical path and all of the to-dos and the priorities, and making sure they're finding that best, most prioritized, highest return on budget approach to managing that project. And when we look at how many initiatives marketing managers have to deal with on a daily basis, there certainly has to be some type of project management system that needs daily care and feeding, and a way to really manage all those resources and requirements. Project management isn't talked about a lot just because it's not a fun or exciting topic. It will not get a lot of clicks on this video if we put the thumbnail out talking about project management for marketing managers, whenever we could be talking about video or social media or podcasts. But it is a real challenge that marketing managers are facing today. Another challenge we've identified for marketing managers is the long lead time for buyers. The buying cycle for B2B buyers is very, very long. And this is coincides with generally impatience from the C-suite and management as far as developing marketing qualified leads that turn into sales qualified leads that then turn into sales. And this is a tremendous challenge and a tremendous pressure on the marketing managers that must constantly be handled. Another area that's a big challenge for marketing managers is branding. When we look at how important branding is for manufacturing companies and B2B companies, and we also then look at how little priority is given to it by the C-suite and by management, we have to understand how big of a challenge this is for marketing managers to fight for space, budget, and resources for branding initiatives. When we look at the 95-5 rule and we see that 5% of your market on average is buying today and the other 95% is not, we have to perform branding initiatives and maintain brand awareness in our market so that whenever the 95 moves into the 5, that you're considered an authority and an opportunity for them to engage with, to consider for that buying process. And marketing managers are having to fight for resources and energy and time and money to put towards those branding initiatives. So marketing managers are also facing a litany of other challenges, whether it's ROAS, whether it's MQL, transition to SQL rates, whether it's lead generation, attribution, marketing automation, reporting, but fighting for budget. There are so many other things that marketing managers are dealing with. And our goal is to hopefully alleviate some of that pressure. One of the goals of the Missing Half podcast and the entire content universe of 50 Marketing is to provide resources for marketing managers so that they can become educated strategically and tactically on what they should be doing for their organization. And our goal is to provide our perspective, but also to go out and get expert interviews with others to broaden our perspective and understand what's missing in our thinking and our roadmaps and playbooks, and also provide a platform for conversation and comments where you, the marketing manager, can provide your feedback and ideas on what we're presenting. The future of marketing is not 100% insourcing or 100% outsourcing. The future of marketing continues to trend towards a hybrid model of insourced marketing resources with marketing management and a small team, plus outsourced agency resources of technical specialists to help deliver marketing initiatives. Our goal is to learn together and understand what's needed and provide best fit solutions so that we can hold up our end of the bargain and be that outsourcing partner that can help marketing managers achieve their goals. So as we go on this learning journey, we invite you to tag along, subscribe to our channel, listen to some of our podcasts or watch them on YouTube. We really want to develop a community conversation around these topics and learn together what's missing and what we can do to improve our marketing efforts every day.